the Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, the Mothman, the Lazy Butt Goblin. Okay, I don't know what the last one is. I think I made it up. But there's a lot of legendary creatures out there that I find really fascinating. Not because I like scary stories, but because it's fun to imagine. Especially when there's so many legendary creatures out there that turned out to be true, such as the Kraken, that turned out to be the giant squid, and the platypus and the gorilla were once considered to be nothing more than legends until proven true. However, there's one legend that turned out to be true that interests me a lot, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. So get your popcorn and explore into the Red Ghost. It is the year Life magazine was first founded. It is also the year that Buffalo Bill Wild West show was first opened. It is the year 1883. This story starts in Eagle Creek, Arizona. Two women are alone in a home while their husbands are out checking on the animals on the ranch. I personally like to think the guys while working were talking about what us guys talk about today. I'd like to think they were talking about professional wrestling. Talking about how Abraham Lincoln went up to 300 matches, and the time in the 1830s when he beat the local champion in New Salem, Illinois, being a guy named Jack Armstrong. I know I've looked a lot into it, but I couldn't find any information on Abraham Lincoln having a wrestling catchphrase. But I'd like to think it went along the lines of, "What you gonna do, brother, when the Lincoln Maniacs and the Union Army run wild on you, brother?" Okay, I think I'm only thinking that because I watched a little too much pro wrestling growing up. However, while the men were doing that, the women were back at the house until one of the women had to go outside and go get something. While the one lady stayed inside, she after a bit started hearing the dogs barking. So she decided to go to the window to see what was going on. What she described she saw was a red-haired, four-legged creature being ridden by the devil himself. I can only presume looking for a fiddle challenge. And oh boy, I've been looking for this challenge my entire life. Oh, I'm in trouble. Well, anyway, she then heard the terrifying screams of a friend that terrified her so much she barricaded the door. Later that night, the husbands returned home, and after hearing the woman's story, they went out and investigated. They eventually found the second wife unfortunately trampled to death. She had red hair around her and hoof prints around her as well. Sometime later, prospectors ended up reporting the same thing going through their campground. After some more sightings, word started getting around like crazy. It grew to even become a huge story, where even some people with grins, not taking it so seriously, sat around campfires, telling the story of the Red Ghost. And since flashlights weren't invented until 1899, I want to think they held lanterns to their face, slowly singeing off their eyebrows. However, I have no proof of that. Do y'all hear someone cooking bacon? Or maybe taking a long whiz? Oh, my eyebrows! Ah! Well, anyway, the legend went on until 1893, because that's when a farmer by the name of Mizzo Hastings found the red ghost eating and shot it dead. That's when it was discovered the red ghost all along was nothing more than a camel, with a body on its back strapped so tightly with leather straps it just never fell off. I found a few theories on why the man was strapped on the camel's back, from a prospector who died of dehydration, but before he died he tied himself to the camel's back in the hopes it would bring him to water. While some people actually think it was a soldier from the US Camel Corps. If you don't know what the US Camel Corps was, it was an experiment by the US Army to use camels as pack animals instead of horses in the southwestern parts of the United States. The Camel Corps ran from 1856 to 1866. The first set of camels to reach the United States was on May 14th, 1856, which of course was on Whoop Whoop Hump Day! Since camels projectile vomit when threatened, I wonder how that went over with the legend. Ectoplasm! Well, anyway, but let's get serious for a second. I know the story is pretty sad from what the camel dealt with and the poor guy and the poor woman who passed away from this tragedy. However, I think this story is just plain fascinating, especially because of the moral lesson it teaches. As a society, we are fast to go up to someone telling a story that isn't making sense to us and just call them a crazy conspiracy theorist. And to be fair, sometimes they are. But I believe as explorers in wildlife, we shouldn't be so quick to judge and explore it ourselves, find the truth. I know that conspiracy or legend sometimes is exaggerated or fake, but sometimes it's worth the adventure. Just look at the kraken and the gorilla and the red ghost. The story originally might have been over exaggerated, but when explored, the truth was an amazing story. Even if it turns out to be completely nothing, it still doesn't ruin the fun in telling the story to your friends while burning your eyebrows off. I would also like to think to myself, can you imagine the amazing adventure if one day, just maybe one day, the legend isn't fake or exaggerated? Thanks for watching. If you like this video, why not give it a like, a follow, or go ahead and subscribe? Or heck, maybe share it with your friends. If you want to see more content like this, you can also go ahead and go to wolfyzoo.com. Thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all buds later.